Okay, wait, can I hear you now?
You and I are like chugging.
I know.
We'll sit, put it
It's
down.
sad.
We'll sit,
It's
put it
like
down.
it's literally my second Celsius of the day, which is I need to check myself.
This is not good. It's not good.
I'm gonna be like shaking.
I've got another one on the counter.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Oh, thank you.
Bless him. Mark, show yourself. Let me see you. Come on
But
in. Say
Maddie
hello.
said, "Show yourself, Mark." She wants to meet you.
What's up, man?
This is Mark.
How you doing?
Maddie. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Imperfect Podcast. I'm your host, Kirsten Pfeiffer, and I am joined today by the lovely Madi Grace. Madeline and I have actually known each other for a few years now, and she's just such an amazing person. She's a talented singer, songwriter, musician. She's a model, and she just has such an incredible heart. She's such a great role model and just such a strong person. So I'm really excited to have her on today and to chat and hear her heart. So welcome, Mads.
Hi. Thank you for having me. My heart just about exploded out of my chest as you were saying those things. Good grief. I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh
I
my
appreciate
gosh,
you.
of course. Thank you for being on. And it's so exciting to be able to like connect and see your face via Zoom because it's been like, I don't remember the last time I saw you in person. It was definitely pre-COVID.
Oh yeah, over a year and a half for sure.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
it's so great to see your beautiful face and
Ew.
just as beautiful on the inside as the outside. So I would love if you could just tell anyone listening a little bit more about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Well, to start out, my name is just Madi Grace, Madeline Perry, Madeline Slack, whatever you choose to call me by, or just Maddie. I am a Southern girl raised in the South in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I guess my journey really starts with Jesus. And I got baptized when I was 10. I grew up in a Christian household. Everyone in my family is musical. We would have like music battles every other night in the kitchen. We're banging around pots and pans.
I love that.
It's something it's just always been around me. I felt like I had like the cool musical family growing up. My mom sang, my grandpa's in a rock and roll band. I was always around stuff like that. I mean,
That's
like
so
literally
cool.
it's in your veins.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I got into music and I started writing songs when I was probably like 10 or 11, like around the same time I got baptized, and I would just swing on my swing in my backyard and write these little like songs like, oh, the sun is shining. Like it wasn't really good, but you know, it
That's
was
so
something.
precious. I could just imagine 10-year-old Madeline.
Oh, she was a hoot. I'm telling you what, she was way too confident for her own dang good. But it started with that. And when I was 14, I really wanted to get more into the industry. And I had told my first grade teacher when I was like 6 or 7 that I wanted to be a model and a singer and a songwriter, or I should say Victoria's Secret model. And for a 6-year-old to say that in a first grade class did not make a lot of sense. I didn't know what that was. I told her I wanted to be like Mother Teresa and a Victoria's Secret angel. Again, didn't know what either of those things really meant. And she called my mom that day and was like, you got a special kid. Like, I don't know what she's on, but like, she's got some big goals. So at like 14, 15, my parents thought I was old enough to like start getting into it. And I was riding horses at the time, being my little Southern self, you know, and really kind of put like soccer and horseback and other stuff like that on the back burner and really took modeling super seriously. I thought that would be a great way to kind of dive into the industry and get to know more people, start networking. So I started working in Dallas. I started exclusively working with a company called Redken, the hair brand, and they would fly me to Vegas. They would fly me to like Missouri at one point, Houston, San Antonio, everything in between. And I was working with them a whole lot, and I got signed in LA with Next Model Management, started working with them, had a really interesting journey with getting unsigned with them, kind of changing my body image a little bit, and moved to New York. It's been all over the place, but ultimately I've just been a little travel bunny for the past like 4 or 5 years, and just kind of letting God guide that. You're gonna go here for a while, gonna go here for a while, build a community here. it's just been that. I've just kind of been all over the place.
Yeah. Well, it's been so incredible to watch that journey, because I met her when, 3 years ago, when she was in LA. We actually go to the same church, and we were in this like church home college together. So it was a year of just like getting to see your heart and everything that God was doing in your life. And then after that, when you moved to New York, it's just been so cool to watch you from afar and how that journey has evolved. And I feel like with that, and you mentioned the body image thing, you've always just been such a strong voice for body image and like knowing who you are and sticking to that, especially in an industry like the modeling industry, where there's so much pressure, obviously, to look a certain way. So I'd love if you could just talk a little more about that journey and how you've been able to stay true to yourself and find your value in things other than what the industry tells you.
That is a can of worms, and I'm so happy that you said that, and I'm excited to open it up. You met me at probably one of the weirdest points in my life, and I think probably 2 weeks before we met, I walked into my agency next in Los Angeles and basically said, I'm going to like leave you guys. I'm going to drop my contract if you don't want me the way that I am. Wow. At that point, I had been home for like 6 months to 8 months, and had to leave LA because they told me that I was getting too fat.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had left LA, I'd come back, and I came back with the purpose of, I'd been back home. I got back to my roots. I know who I am, but it's always nice to come home and be reminded. And when I went back to LA, I was not going to give in to industry standards. And I knew that I was beautifully and wonderfully made the way that I was. And if you didn't like me like that, then that's not my problem.
Yeah. Wow.
And you really just have to go through life, and especially in any industry in Hollywood like that. So I walked in and I stood my ground, and I stood my faith, and I said, I know what I'm capable of doing. You guys do not have any curved women on your board. I'm a size 6 and you want me to starve myself. Wow. And I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
And before I went into that meeting with them, I saw one other girl come out, and they told her that she was too big, and she was this big around. She was literally a size 0-2, and they were like, you need to lose a couple more inches. There were 2-3 girls before me who they were saying the exact same thing to. And I lost my contract with them. I basically was like, I'm out. And they released me from my contract. And literally 2 weeks after that, I got a call from Elijah and Scuba, who are 2 people in our church home college group. And I didn't even know Elijah at the time. He's like, this is Pastor Elijah. I don't know why I'm calling you. Scuba gave me the phone and said, you need to get over here. I need you in church home college right now. And so I got in an Uber and I just drove. Wow. And that was the beginning of the process of God saying, I need to wean you off of this to make you stronger in this area before you can jump back into it again. Wow. So I just put everything on pause. And I would say in that season, and then feeling the reverse of that, of going to New York and being on a curve board and having your agents tell you that you need to eat more.
Wow.
It's like baffling that, you'll see like people post like, you're good enough, you're perfect the way that you are, like we're, in this inclusive industry, and my agency now totally is. But it was just very interesting to go from hearing like, you need to starve yourself, to hearing you need to eat a hamburger.
Wow.
Going to castings in LA and I couldn't pull the pants up past my thighs. Like they wouldn't go past my thighs. And then going to New York and pulling up pants that like I couldn't keep them up. And if I let go of them, they would drop back to the ground.
Wow.
It's just been a very interesting process of going through that. But I know that God's going to continue to bless it. And if I can tell anybody anything, it's stand your ground and don't be afraid to say no, especially in LA and New York and Miami and places like that where it's such a skewed industry. If you don't say no and you don't stand your ground and you don't make standards, people will literally step all over you.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so proud of you, first of all. And like watching you go through that journey. And like, by the way, even when I met you, when you were like so tiny. So that just like boggles my mind that is like the narrative that people are being told. And then not only that, but like when you think about the effect that has on society, like you're the face that everyone's seeing. And so then girls and boys across the country see that that's the standard that's being set. And then, and by the way, like a lot of people are not naturally that way and they're being told to starve
No.
themselves. And then,
Yeah.
so it really takes bravery and courage from people like you to be like, no, I'm going to like break the mold. And if you're not okay with that, then like, let me go. But I think it's been cool to see more and more people stepping into that. And it's really all about perspective, because like you said, then you got to New York and then they're like, well, you need to gain weight. And so if you're always trying to please people, no matter what it is, whether it's in the modeling industry or in the acting industry or just in your daily lives, like people are always going to change their minds. Trends are going to change. And so, I mean, you even think about like, it's a silly example, but eyebrows, like it used to be the thing to have like really thin eyebrows, and now it's like thicker eyebrows. And like, if you try to keep up with trends, it's always going to change. And so I think just like knowing who you are and like all physical things aside, then you can like have the courage to stand your ground. And then in an industry where it's actually so hard to get respect when you're starting out, it can be scary to speak up, but I've found in like my acting career, every time I've done that, I've gotten so much more respect. And I think setting those boundaries just gives you freedom to really like flourish. So I'm so proud of you, and it's been amazing to see you flourish. So
girl, you too. No, that's it. It's literally just setting the boundary, and God blesses it. Every single time that you stand firm in his word, he will reverse it and he will bless it. So it can always be hard to be like the voice in the room saying like, I'm not going to say that, or I'm not going to do that, just because of your values. And even like onto the acting spectrum, like I was into that for a little while, and that's something that I really want to get more into, when I'm able to, kind of put modeling down for a little bit. But I dropped a movie after I'd already committed to it because the script was so vulgar. And I had people in my church back home in little like Jinx, Oklahoma, who were rejoicing with me of, you got this big role. Lindsay Lohan's like favorite director was directing it. It was a big deal. And I basically was like, I'm out. I know I already committed, but I'm out. And it kind of ruined my reputation. But you have to set that boundary. You literally have to set it. And I can't get on a screen and say things that I don't believe in, or that I wouldn't say at a table with my grandma. I shouldn't wear things and post things that I wouldn't wear in front of my grandparents, or stand up in church and wear that on a stage. You know what I mean? It's literally setting boundaries. And it's something that we don't talk about enough anymore, because social media skews it, and there are no boundaries, and you're supposed to put everything out there because that's what everybody else does. It's insane. It's insane.
Well, on that note, I would love to talk more about that, because I feel like there's been this narrative the last few years with like within women's empowerment. And, I'm like the biggest like feminist, and empowering women is like part of my mission, I feel. And so I am so on board for that. But I think sometimes the way that it's been spoken about is we're encouraging girls to put it all out there, show whatever they want, do whatever they want. And while it's different for every person, like, again, it gets back to like, what is your truth and why are you doing what you're doing? Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge and say what you should or shouldn't do. But I think if you're just posting scandalous pictures because your agents are telling you to do that because it'll get more likes and it'll get you more roles or whatever the thing is, you have to check yourself and say, is this actually true for me? And is this empowering to me? Or is it actually like leaving me feel like unempowered, right? And so I would love if you could talk a little bit more about, because I know you've kind of gone through that journey of really deconstructing and refining like what you're putting out there. And it's been beautiful hearing you talk about it, but also seeing how you've like, you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. So what has that been like for you?
I guess I would have to say that I have been having to refine what I have been posting, and even the things that I post on my story, the messages that I send to people, the way that I hold myself, the standards that I have, because it is exactly that. The world will tell you something, and then the word will tell you something different. And my motto for the past couple of years is that I want to live in the world, but not of it, because you can get those two meshed together way too quickly. And everything can start to solidify where it won't pull apart and you don't know right from wrong anymore. And, I was talking to you a couple of weeks ago about, just the things that I was posting and why I was posting them and my heart posture behind it. And I caught myself a couple of years ago just posting things and like tagging my agency, and it just like, trying to keep them, like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, like put my face in the front of their mind. So when they thought about booking me for jobs or this or this or that, Like I was the person that they wanted to push for. I was posting way too many like revealing pictures, way too many like bikini things and things like that. And I think that it's hard to have that conversation with people about like you should or you shouldn't post certain things, because again, the world's like, post your bikini pictures, post yourself at the beach, post the lingerie pictures, because you look good and you're fearless and it's amazing. But it's such a myself driven thing.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago when I talked to you and I took a step back from that and had a conversation with my boyfriend of, I have been posting things not realizing how much it was affecting my brothers in Christ. And when that hit me, when that like really solidified in my heart and in my mind, I broke down. I had a full-on panic attack of, I could be the reason. And I know that I am the reason, because I've had guys, you know, even like guy friends in church home who've had to come to me and say, I need to block you on social media because I'm looking at you lustfully.
Wow.
And that, if that doesn't hit you, I don't know what does.
Yeah. Wow.
So yes, like it is empowering to post certain things, but also like the intention of why you're posting them is so important. And the minute that you break it down and you're like, is this for me or is this so I can get gratification from other people? Like that instant gratification. Do I think that I'm beautiful, or do I just want somebody to tell me that I'm beautiful so I can feel beautiful?
Right. Yeah.
It is night and day different. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. And I'm still trying to navigate it, but I'm at the point now where I'm not going to post anything to just please people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's just not.
Yeah. And I think that's really what it comes down to, because again, like anyone listening, there's like no shame or judgment here when we're talking about all of this. And I really think it is case by case and person by person. And there's not a black and white answer of like what you should put out there, how you should present yourself, because obviously that's different for every person. But I think like you said, it's like asking yourself why. Like, why am I posting this? Is this to fill a void or to get some kind of validation outside of myself? Or is it because I genuinely like, I'm proud of my body and I want to put that out there? That's like amazing, and do that. But I think it can be really easy to get caught in seeking for external validation. And then, like you said, not being aware of the effects that it can have on other people, whether that be men or whether that be other women that are
other women. Yes. That's huge.
Yeah. So I think just realizing it's like bigger than just us. And then knowing like why you're doing what you're doing. And I mean, even like going into the human trafficking stuff that I've been working on, like so much of have you seen or heard of the documentary Cuties?
I've seen a little bit of it. Okay. And I've seen like the little dolls that people have talked about like you dip them in water and when you pull them out, they have like hidden lingerie on them. Have you heard of stuff like that? Oh, no. It's so bad. Like there's so many things that are just like hidden in society.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's like, it gets back to like the imaging that we're giving young girls. So like Cuties, if anyone's not aware of this, were like 10-year-old girls being like dressed very scandalously and like twerking on stage, but like very like sexually explicit. And the filmmakers, their point was that it was a commentary on that and like a critique of it. But, you know, Netflix got a lot of backlash, and I think rightfully so, because it's showing these young girls that is actually that's what gets attention, and that's how I should be moving. And then when you link into like the work that I've done with human trafficking, that like whets the appetites of pedophiles if they can see that in like mainstream media. And again, it's like leading into that temptation of like, now they're going to want to go seek out more explicit content of 10-year-old kids. And when you look at like, people are so shocked when they hear about all of this like child pornography that's happening online, but it's because we're pushing that more and more into the mainstream media, and we're telling people from a young age and girls from a young age to sexually present themselves. And it's again this like sexualization that is being pushed into the media and the images that we're seeing from the time we're really young, that again like however you choose to present yourself, that is totally on you, and there's no shame. But we have to be aware of how it's impacting those around us, and especially the younger generation that is looking up to us. So
amen to that.
Yeah. And I love hearing just your journey with that. And Because it's such a nuanced thing. So I think the more that we can have conversations and refine why we believe what we believe, that is what truly is empowering. So
amen to that. Oh yeah. And I'm right there with you of, there's so much good that comes out of, women empowerment, and I'm all for it. I'm all for girls supporting girls, and, posting stuff that really does make an impact of like, my body looks like this, or it looks like this. But there is negative things that come from that as well. It's all in the way that we present it. And the same thing what you were saying about cuties. I remember when that got taken off of Netflix. And my mom and I were talking about it, and she's like, that reminds me of Toddlers and Tiaras. And I don't know if you remember that show, but I would watch it as a kid, and these girls are like running around, and there's like 4 or 5-year-olds in bikinis and stuff like this, and they're twerking on stage. And my mom was like, you're not allowed to watch this because I don't want you to start acting like this.
Wow.
And being so young, we do soak up everything that we see. And there's nothing wrong with, wanting to put your kids in the pageants. My mom was a pageant girl. She wanted me to want to do that. But she's like, we don't do pageants like this because that opens doors to so many other things. And for so many other people to look at you in different types of ways, especially being so young, that I completely get where you're coming from. It's literally just about protecting yourself, protecting your children, protecting your heart, protecting other people that, you may not even know.
Absolutely. And I think I want to point out about like the situation with your mom, like your mom was there to protect and censor you because you have a great mom. But a lot of kids don't have that censorship. And then nowadays too, like the young kids have so like much access to everything at their fingertips. I tutor like a 9 and 10-year-old girl, and it's like they can see whatever they want to look up. So now I think more than ever, we really have to be careful about what we're putting out there and the message that we're speaking to this younger generation, whether it be explicit or just implicit by how we're living our lives, because people are watching, and we do have an influence and an impact more than we might realize. So like we've been talking about, there's this I feel like this tension between women's empowerment, and like we both fully and wholeheartedly want that. But the women empowerment movement and how it's being presented to women, and the things that we're being encouraged to do of like, go sleep with whoever you want, go post whatever you want, go do whatever feels good to you. I think that actually, like we've been saying, leads to some things that are actually not empowering at all. And so to you, what is true women's empowerment, and how do you think we need to shift the narrative that we're telling young girls?
I think right now it is such a 50-50 split between truth and worldly truth. And I know I say like worldly and stuff like that a lot, but there is such a divide between the two. I am not a perfect human, and I have made so many mistakes when it comes to what actually is truth and what I think is truth, and what I think and what I feel. And I think that a lot of women aren't able to separate the two right now of how you think and how you feel, your emotions and the reality, just because it is so skewed. I don't even think that it's a lot of women's fault, but they don't even know.
Right.
There's just a lot online that isn't truthful right now. And the minute that you get something online that is more like holy or Christian, or like, we should do things like this, it looks like repulsive to some people. They're like, why would I not post everything that I have to show? Like, why would I not say everything that I think? Why would I not do this or do that? I think true women's empowerment is being kind to people, no matter what their view on life is, being respectful to people, no matter what their view on life is, whether that's Democrat, Republican, Christian, Catholic, whatever it is. It's not I'm only going to be nice to you because we believe in the same things, and we're going to call it women empowerment. That's not what women empowerment is. That is bass backwards. That's not it at all. That's selective empowerment. I think that a woman who is full of empowerment is educated, or she's educating herself on something new every single day. A woman who is firm in who she is, whether that's her faith or her career, in her heart and her mind, she knows her value. She knows who she is down to her core. I think a woman who is full of empowerment doesn't listen to everything that the world has to say. Being kind to everybody that I meet, no matter where you stand, whether that's Democrat, Republican, Christian, Catholic. I'm not going to change the way that I treat you just because you don't agree with the same things that I agree with or believe in. I think that that's the furthest thing from women empowerment. We see people online who, are quote feminists, are quote for women empowerment, but they're not empowering every group of women just because they don't agree with the same thing that you agree with. Like we had talked on, about like your body image and the things that you post. Like we both said, you can post whatever you want to post. We have free will. We're able to do that. And the reasons that we put it out are based on how we feel and how we want to present ourselves. But I think a woman who is full of empowerment and is a powerful woman is always going to present herself in the best possible way that she can. She's going to think before she speaks. There's a lot of things that really make a powerful woman. And I think that a lot of things that we're saying make a powerful woman or an empowered woman are not the reality. Why are we so focused on walking into the room and being the prettiest and the loudest and like the baddest beep in the room? That's not what being a woman of power or empowerment is. Like it's being the smartest and the kindest and the most gentle and humble woman when you walk into a room. That's what makes a room shift. If I walk into a room and I just start shouting and yelling my opinion and I'm abrasive and aggressive, that is not a woman of empowerment. I look like a fool. And I've been in those situations of like, I'm being too much for everybody else around me. But an empowered woman can read the room. She's kind to people. She knows how to speak to different people. And I think that we've lost an element of that. And I think that, again, that really does play into what we see on social media of, I'm going to say I support you, but you don't believe in the same things that I do. So just kidding.
Right.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
No, I love everything you're saying. And I think what I'm hearing too, it's like, again, it gets back to your value and your why. It's like walking into the room and knowing that you don't have to push yourself onto anyone else, that you don't have to flaunt yourself just to get attention from men or other women and to have to prove yourself. It's like knowing your value and knowing that, like, and taking the time to do the work on yourself and to dig deep and to find out your why, and then going out into the world knowing so strongly who you are and what your why is, so then you can just show up as you are and like who you were created to be. And I think that is empowering to you, but it empowers people around you. And then you don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room. You don't have to be scared when you tell your agent, actually, I'm not going to starve myself. You don't have to be scared to say, you know what, this role actually is out of alignment with me. I'm not going to do that, So I think, again, being in the world, but not of it, like you said, listening, being educated and informed, but at the end of the day, making your own decisions and loving and supporting everyone around you, regardless of if they see eye to eye in the things that you believe. So I love your heart, and I love everything. Come on. Yeah. And what would you give?
Kill it.
Well, likewise, you inspired me. But what would you tell, like, any women that are listening that are maybe struggling with their identity and just kind of getting to that place of knowing their value?
I have like a list of things, and that's the thing, is that it's not just one thing,
right?
And I think that you'll see like this 3-step plan to knowing who you are and things along those lines, and it's so much more than that,
right?
I think it's really spending time with yourself. Turn off the phone, delete social media, spend some time with God, or whatever your religion or relationship is, really reflecting on who you are, your value. That's it. It's literally just knowing who you are. It's not this, you have to wake up every single day and work out at this time or do this or do that or do that. It is setting the standard, knowing who you are and what you stand for, and the rest will fall in line.
Wow,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It is a lot more simple than I think that people want to give it credit.
Well, and I love what you said about it is not like a 3-step plan to to being empowered and to being the best you. And I think that we see that a lot of times on social media, and a lot of times those messages are coming from a good place and people wanting to empower people, but it's so different for everyone else. These conversations we're having are very nuanced, and it's a gray space, and everyone has to, again, we're all created differently. We all have a different purpose. So knowing what my why is, and the way I want to present myself is going to be different than the way you present yourself. So what works for you might not work for me, but I think what you said is so key, is willing to step away from it all, to take some time to yourself and spending time with God and just really reflecting on what's important to you. And then I think in that place, you can find value that no one else can take away from you. And I think I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what the journey has been for you. And I know you said you went home for a while and you kind of put your career on the table and just took some time to kind of like let God work on your heart and like kind of reroute your path. And so what came out of that time for you? I mean, you may have touched on it a little bit more, but what was that process like?
It was having to sit alone with my thoughts. That was it. It was, and I think quarantine has given people that opportunity to take a step back and sit with your thoughts. You're stuck with yourself, who weren't able to leave the house. Like some people, like even in California, you know, you're not able to leave the house. We were never on a stay-at-home order in Oklahoma, but it broke my heart that some people weren't ready to sit with their thoughts. And I was praying all over that. It's exactly what I had to go through in, you know, 2018, 2019 of I was going all the time, and I didn't know how to slow down. And the minute that I slowed down and I took a deep breath and I did sit with my thoughts and I sat with God and I said, what do you want from my life? I am here to serve you. What do you want me to do? And that was not an easy process. Like I said, it took 6 to 8 months. It was almost a year before I made it back to LA. Because he just needed me to be still. I really struggled. I had just gotten out of a relationship at the time. I'd really struggled with like falling into a really depressive state of, I couldn't go back to LA because my representation told me if I came back, they weren't going to book me because I was too fat. And I didn't have any friends. I lost every friend that I had here. I lost my best friend here. It was probably one of the darkest times of my life. And I never thought that I would ever go through something like that, of having, you know, rumors spread around your hometown and losing your friend group, and people you thought were your friends listen to things other people had to say rather than come and get it from you firsthand. And I've had a lot of apologies. The amount of people who have come and apologized to me in the past couple of years of like, I am so sorry that I thought you were this type of person. I'm sorry that I made you out to be this person. I'm sorry that I was spreading these lies about you. But like I said, it's been throughout the past couple of years. It didn't happen in those 6 to 8 months because God needed that time with me, and I needed that time with God for him to say, this is what being broken feels like. I need you to understand where you're at right now, because where I'm about to take you, you're going to need to be strong for that.
Wow. That's incredible.
But that's it. You just got to sit with God, man. It's being quiet with your thoughts and turning off your mind and letting him come into you is
right. I think we're so scared of the silence because there are so many things that we push down. And like you said, just the addiction to activity and doing, and we were talking about this before, but like we're human beings not doing. And I think sometimes just allowing yourself to be and to sit, like there is a lot of, because I've had seasons like that too. And there's a lot of pain that comes up and a lot of like realizing how broken we are. But I think in that space and being like everything like ripped out to the core and just like kind of I just like had this vision when I was in that season of just like a demolition site. But from that, then like God can build like a strong foundation. And you know, like anyone that's listening, like obviously we're both Christian and like you don't have to believe what we believe to like have a similar experience. I think just allowing yourself to be still and to be silent and whatever that truth is for you of getting you really connected to who you are and who you're created to be. And I think in that place, then you can like, I think the cool thing when it seems like everything goes wrong and you lose all your friends and your career's not going how you thought it would be, when you faced like the worst, then you're not scared of anything. Because I think a lot of times what we're scared of, it's scary to be a voice to say, you know what, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to lose weight. I'm not going to present myself in this light. That's scary in an industry where you're always being told to please people and to be what they're looking for. And I think when you've at a fundamental level experienced those losses that you experience, then you're not scared of those other things. And like you said, you have to have that alone time to build a strong foundation, because where you're going, you need to be so strong. So I think it's incredible, because it takes patience. It takes vulnerability. It's really vulnerable to be in that space of just letting everything go and really being forced to look at yourself in the mirror. And so I think just seeing the fruit of what's come out of that for you, I've said it before, but I'm so proud of you, and you're just inspiring. You. So yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you. And what was your date? I want to like dive into the dating thing that you talked about, saying you had gotten out of a tough relationship and then spent that time alone. And again, getting into the women empowerment thing, I think sometimes there's mixed messages that come out of that, of like what we're supposed to do in our dating lives. And even from young girls, like we're told that our value comes from like being someone's wife, and we get that all the time, even in the church, you know? And so it's like the world, and then also sometimes the church like tells us things that are actually not true of like what true women empowerment is. So how have you navigated that in dating?
That is such a, I'm going to be really honest again. I am not a perfect human. Yeah. Especially living in LA and in Hollywood, like everybody and their dad is at your disposal. Yeah. And I'm a 6'1" tall, blonde haired, blue eyed female who no one had seen before. I was new flesh, like type of thing. Getting out of that relationship though, I was so young and I was so naive, and I had been dating him for like 2 years. And sorry, there was fuzz. I've been dating him for like 2 years. And when I got out of that, I realized how one-sided that relationship was. And he was manipulative and he was a liar. And so having to come out of that and go, God, what was that? How did that just happen? Like you're supposed to bring me this man who is a leader and is honest and encouraging and comforting. And the person I just dated and got out of a relationship with is a liar. Wow. Like an active liar. Like I look at it now and I'm going, how did somebody not pull me out of that? How was I able to sit there for so long that I can't look at that person the same way anymore? And I never got the opportunity to pop off on him and to say like, screw you type of thing. Like, how dare you? And when I got out of that, it literally was like, God, I need you to heal me. I need you to show me what a man is. And I had a season of like, I would get to know guys. I would go on a date, like a kiss here, a kiss there. I kissed a lot of frogs, like probably like half a dozen, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, that was a lot. Yeah. The dating scene in LA is terrible. And so you have men who are telling you, like, they'll tell you like, oh, like you need to sleep with this person or you need to be with this person. I think most of the drama that I had while living in LA was based off of like who I was getting to know and why I was getting to know them. And I had a lot of people start rumors about me, even like in the church, of like, Maddie's a clout chaser. Maddie likes these guys with influence, this and this and that. Like, be careful. Wow. And it was because men of influence would want to take me out. Right. And so I'd have people tell me like, I get that you want to go on a date with this guy, but he's bad. I'm like, I don't know this person. I'm not going to judge it. I should have stood my ground in so many areas that I didn't. And I think, again, quarantine really did remind me who I was. Of LA skewed my opinion on what was okay, what wasn't okay. The walk of shame is glorified in LA. Yeah. There's a whole song called like the Walk of Shame. And it's like this like cute little bop, and pop off Meghan Trainor. Like, she's amazing. But yeah, I think there's so many things of like doing the walk of shame from personal experience of like not necessarily like doing anything the night before, but like I have spent the night at a guy's house and nothing has happened. Yeah. But for me to walk down the street the next day, even though me knowing nothing happened and having people look at me like, oh my gosh, like, is not an empowering feeling. Right. In fact, it's degrading to me, because I would walk down the street or hop in my Uber and I would go, I'm worth so much more than that. And they don't know that because they're just watching my actions. Wow. So getting into the relationship that I'm in now, with my incredible boyfriend, who has been so so grace filled with all of the things that I've had to tell him about, like the mistakes that I've made and the people that I've kissed that I didn't want to kiss, or the nights that I spent the night somewhere where I shouldn't have spent the night. You know, he has been amazing with that. And he's been so kind and patient and humble. And it really did take me going through all those trials with these literally trash men. Like, God loved them, but they don't know how to treat a woman for squat. It took all of that and all of that process for me to go, where is the line? Right. What is the standard? Because I don't know what it is anymore. And that's a bad place to be at. It's a terrible place to be at. And I had to, again, spend some time with God and my thoughts, and he brought in my now boyfriend.
Wow. You guys are so freaking cute, by the way. I just live vicariously. I'm still single, so I'm like, live vicariously through you guys. But I think like everything you said is so amazing. And I think that there's such a through line here back to what we were talking about, even with the body image thing. It's like, being willing to step away from something, whether that be an industry that's trying to put an identity on you that's actually not who you are, or a dating scene that's trying to tell you what you should do to be successful and to
relationship.
Yeah, because by the way, the men that, you know, have hurt you and that don't treat you well, a lot of times it's coming from their brokenness that they're not able to treat a woman right. And so again, getting that back to that place of like love and like seeing them as a human being and like their brokenness and saying, hey, like I have empathy for you, but I also don't have to be treated that way, and having like power of choice. But again, you have to spend that time and be willing to be alone to develop your self-worth. So then you know what you do and don't deserve. And I think like we were saying that when you walk into a room as a woman that's empowered and not having to like flex that on anyone, the right guy that's done the work on himself will see you and he'll see your value without you having to prove it, without you having to dress a certain way, without you having to do the things that the world is telling us to do to attract a man. And so, and yeah, like I love what you said too about like the experience you've had with your boyfriend of like him just like having so much love for you regardless of the mistakes you've made. Because that's another thing, I think, especially in the church, where it's like, oh, if you've done X, Y, and Z, you're a dirty rag or whatever the thing is. And I think as a Christian, that there's like these rules in the church, but then there's also not a safe space to talk about those things. So it just leads women to a place of like, either be this perfect person, but not know why you're doing what you're doing because it's just a rule and a religion and not actually like a relationship with God. And then you're like in the world and you're being told to do all these things and like sleep around. And then it leaves this space where no one's talking about the gray space in between those two extremes. And that leads you to feeling like really alone and full of shame. And so I think being able to have more of these conversations, again, knowing your why, whether it is like you want to go and have one night stands, like if that's what you want to do, like power to you, but like know your why.
Know your why.
And
that's
then
it. Know your why.
Exactly. And then knowing that there's someone out there that will see your whole story and like all the things about you and still actually love you because of those experiences and who that's created and like formed you to be. I'm inspired by your guys' love story and just what you've walked through.
I love you. I know, for real. Like you're hitting so many points that I don't think that people like to talk about it. There's this Casey Musgrave song, and I've been obsessed with her for the past couple of years, and now she's like really popping off.
She's great,
and she's so creme de la creme. I love her. She wrote this song, and it's called Follow Your Arrow. And one of the lines is, if you save yourself for marriage, you're a bore. If you don't save yourself for marriage, you're a whore. Like a horrible person. And she's like, a horrible person.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's it right there. And so anybody who's listening to this right now and you feel like you are not forgiven, like I want to just tell you right now, you are forgiven in the name of Jesus. It doesn't matter if your body count is over 100, 300, 400, or if you've slept with one person and you've been regretting it since the day that you left their house or the day they left your house, you are forgiven. And it's not forgiveness from God is not a passive, like, oh, I know better, so now I'm not going to do better because I'm forgiven. The way that forgiveness works with God is that he touches your heart you know that you're forgiven,
Yeah.
and you want to change. You want to start refining yourself because he wants to refine you. But no matter if you don't listen to that still small voice and you go and do it again and again and again and again and again, you are so forgiven.
Absolutely.
You
Amen.
are so forgiven.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that you can do to make God love you any less or want you any less. Even if you've made your way all the way around the block, it doesn't matter. And again, that was a conversation that I had to have with my boyfriend of, when I sat down, I said, I've done things. I will be the first person to stand on a stage and say, I'm not a perfect Christian, because that is what inspires people. When you can stand up and say that I am not perfect, I have done things wrong, I have done things that the church would shame, and I'm still forgiven.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. She's
literal.
Okay, she will break down the store, and she's 7 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Sophie, it's okay, baby.
She's like, Mommy's preaching. I want to come.
No, you can leave that in. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
She's the light of my life.
I love that.
Anyway, but yeah, that's it. That's literally it. You are forgiven, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, I'm really sorry, but
right.
it still loves you.
Yeah, you literally can't escape it. And I mean, that's why the name of this podcast is Imperfect. I feel like anyone that's listening, that has heard this before, I'm sorry, because I sound like a broken record, but like, people relate a lot more to your vulnerabilities, and like, it's not empowering while it's amazing to hear someone say that, like, oh, I waited until marriage, I never like did anything, like, amazing, power to you. But like, for me too, as someone that like, that's not my story. I've done things that I'm, regret, and but I'm like happy for them because they made me who I am. And I also know like why I believe what I believe now. And I also think that it creates a space where we can have these vulnerable conversations and like connect with people and like remind them that there's actually no shame, and that like shame is not from God, and that, like you said, there's nothing you can do that changes that. And so I just love that you're willing to share your heart and the things that you've walked through, because anyone that's listening, like, you're not alone in that. We're definitely not perfect. Again, the reason why it's called Imperfect on this podcast. Perfect is boring, honestly.
It is. No, and oh my gosh, that is something I could talk about all day, because I did things, and by the grace of God, I'm still like saving myself from like that aspect, but I did everything else around it. And again, that doesn't make me a perfect person. Because when you say that to somebody in the church, like, they go, well, you might as well have. And I'm like, do you understand? Like, when you tell me like, I might as well have just gone and had sex, like, I could have done that and God's going to love me no matter what I do. Right. It doesn't matter. So when you preach that to somebody, that is degrading. That is disgusting. And that is the polar opposite of what the church should be doing. Yeah. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So I have my boyfriend over here who is this amazing, perfect, like, I'm his first girlfriend and everything. And I felt like this used rad. And God was like, no, like, that is a lie straight from hell. Right. You are loved. You are empowered because I'm going to empower you, and you are a light. And no matter if those people drained your light out of you, I'm going to fill it right back up. I will put that oil right back in you, and you're going to shine brighter than you ever have before. Just sit with me, know you are forgiven, and know he's going to forgive you as well. And that's the other thing. I was doing a lot of those things and going, like, hanging out with guys that I know that I shouldn't have been hanging out of, and having to learn from that. I wasn't thinking about my future spouse. And that is another thing that I would really like to say to girls who are listening right now, or guys, of like, I know, like, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour of gratification, the feeling of the aftermath of that at points, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to have to like sit and have those conversations. And like, yes, it can feel good and it's empowering. And again, you can do whatever you want to do and you're going to be forgiven. But from my perspective of getting in a relationship with somebody that I want to marry and having to sit down and say, this is who I am. Like, I didn't do any of that with my husband in mind. And that is something that if I could tell a young girl right now, everything that you do with your future spouse in mind, not with like the idea of you're going to change your career path and now you're going to stay in your hometown because you want to date a cowboy, whatever, you know, if that's what you want to do it. But still chase your dreams, but do everything that you do with other people in mind. Wow. Yeah. And that's so powerful. And I think that, plus also your future self in mind, because I think sometimes we're told to live in the moment and I'm so, be present, like enjoy your life, but like also think about where you want to be in 10 years
and also like what your long-term goals are. And again, why you're doing what you're doing, whether it be either end of the spectrum, just like, again, knowing your why and sticking to that. And like you said, thinking of your future self, your future spouse. I mean, I even was listening to a podcast the other day of this financial advisor, and he's like, I went and bought a Gucci bag and like I could afford it and I loved it, but I left feeling so empty because I was like, I was nervous that I was going to like get my Gucci bag dirty. And then I'm like, I spent all this money on this Gucci bag that's now stressing me out. And like for him, he always thinks of his future. He's single. And he's like, I think of my future family and my future wife and having to say no to them because of irresponsible decisions I made as a single person. So it extends beyond like sex or whatever. It's also about your financial decisions and even like how you're treating your body now and exercising and like being healthy so that you can be around longer for your future kids. I think always remembering that there's more ahead and that your decisions not only impact the people around you, but your future self. And so
and and who you are mentally. That's another thing of, I think that I know, because I've been there. You can get pressured into doing things. And you see other, like your other groups of friends and stuff like that, and you're doing things just because everyone else is doing it. And in your spirit and mentally, it's killing you inside. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And again, especially in LA, there's a lot of things that, I mean, I grew up in the Bible Belt. Like my TikTok username is Bible Belt Barbie. Like I am literally like the Bible Belt queen of like, I went out there and my whole identity was shaken up.
Wow.
Because I'm like, this is not who I am. And I know that. And I feel like I'm saying things. And like, I started using like super vulgar language, like when I was in New York and LA, because everybody curses in New York. But the more that I started to educate myself on like who you are mentally, and like, again, like your future family, your future financial situation, even the words you speak, you can start speaking mental doubt into yourself of, I'm not good enough. Like these are vulgar things that I'm saying. I'm not speaking life over my future. I mean, your mental health has everything to do with it. And people don't give that enough credit. You have to speak life over yourself. And that ties right back into the boundaries and the standards and the affirmations of speaking those things over yourself every single day of, I'm not doing these things and why. Even on that list, if you're like, I am having sex with somebody and I'm not married, this is why. You have to have your why. And you're not going to get any judgment from me or from you or from anybody else listening. I pray to God. But know your why. Know the why, the reasons why you want to do that. And I think the minute that you break all that stuff down, you're like, why do I want to go and be intimate with someone? Why do I want to go spend this money on someone? And I would say 80% of the time, it's because it feels good. It's because it feels good. You get the instant gratification. And then that ties back into, why are you posting these things? Everything that we've talked about is a me saturated, an I saturated topic. It's not a we or them or they. It's so self-desired.
Wow. Amen.
It all ties together. It all ties together. And what does that mean? Spending time alone with your thoughts.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. You just did my job for me of tying it all together. That's brilliant. Well, yeah. And I think this is like leading into the last few questions here. And we kind of were talking about like our future selves and our younger selves. If you could tell 10-year-old Maddie, what would it be? Or if you could tell 10-year-old Maddie anything, what would it be?
I like wrote a couple things down. Because this is like a thing that I ask myself a lot of, what would my 10-year-old self be proud of who I am right now? My 10-year-old self was a little brat. She was a little sassafras. She was stomping around in her Mickey Mouse Crocs and her Justice and Limited 2 t-shirts. And
oh, Justice was the
she was all about it. And her hippo pillow pet. She was like, I'm unstoppable. I cannot be touched. So to get through to her, I would say, oh my gosh, I have a lot to say to her. She's a good kid. I would say live in the world, but not of it. Be a kid. Don't try and grow up too fast. Trust in God. Don't change anything about yourself just because other people around you want to follow trends or do certain things. No matter what happens in life, go about it with grace. And I think the biggest thing that I would tell her is that, just to tie it all in, is what anyone says about you is absolutely none of your business.
Wow.
That's it. What anyone and everyone says about you is none of your business. I am a person who tends to keep my head down. I don't like people to know everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because the more people that you let into your circle, the more that they feel like they have an opinion on it. And that they have the right to say things about it. So keep your head down, and what anybody says about you is none of your business.
Wow.
You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because little 10-year-old Maddie's about to jump into you get up from the table and all your friends are talking about you.
Oh, and I walked through that, girl.
Oh, girl, I know you did.
Yeah.
But
wow, that's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. And like not taking opinions from someone that you also wouldn't take advice from, and just really protecting your inner circle. I love that. And what do you think future Maddie, like let's say 40-year-old Maddie, would say to Maddie today?
Girl, she would say, that's a good one. She would probably say slow down.
Yeah.
She would probably say slow down. You have time. You are so young. Enjoy it. Slow down, because I'm the type of person who I will miss out on a lot of opportunities just because it doesn't necessarily align with where I'm trying to go, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with like going out every now and then and hanging out with your friends and staying out late. And I'm of age, having a drink or two, even though I take 2 sips of a margarita and I'm on the floor. Like it really doesn't take much for me. I'm not even gonna lie right now.
I love that.
I've never been a big drinker or anything like that. And I don't think that my 40-year-old self would be like, drugs, but I think she would be like, go have fun.
Go
like,
have a margarita.
Go have fun.
Yeah.
No, literally she would. She'd be like, you need to calm down. Like you're trying to grow up too quick.
Yeah. I love that. And I feel like I've been walking through that a lot recently, because I've always been so focused on where I'm going and really like disciplined that sometimes I do miss the moment.
Yes.
And that's actually because the reason why I asked this question is because I recently had this experience where I was like asking myself what my future Kirsten would tell 26-year-old Kirsten. And I was like, it was similar. It was like, slow down and enjoy it. And I think like allowing the experiences that come to us to enjoy it, because like we've been saying, being in the world but not out of it actually means experiencing the world and like enjoying that, but again doing it from a place of knowing who you are so that you're not influenced by it, but you can still enjoy the things that come your way. So I love that so much. And the name of this podcast is Imperfect. What is the imperfection that you're most proud of?
Oh gosh. I've thought about this because I've listened to your podcast before.
Yeah.
This is a hard one for me because I think a lot of people would want to say something physical and maybe not. Maybe I'm mistaken. I was really trying to think about this with myself a couple of days ago, and I was like, is there something that I don't love about myself? And it's more of a mental thing. It's the letting people in who don't deserve to be let in. Because I could look at my body all day, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what any of this looks like. I need to develop what's in here and what's in here. So I'm my biggest critique on what's in my head. I've had enough people tell me about what's wrong with my body on the outside that I've learned to love every single inch of it, because that just gives me motivation to love myself more. It's a mental game. And I would say I've let too many people in who didn't deserve to be let in.
Wow.
And quarantine was another thing that really had to I really had to learn to treat myself better in that area of who deserves to be let in. I lost my best friend over this quarantine. Again, this isn't the first time I've lost a best friend. People really showed themselves this year. They really did, because we were all left with our own thoughts. And chaos brings out a lot of things in a lot of people. And although I love every single friend that I lost during this time, I count it all as gain, because it taught me something. And I was able to say, this is why I need to keep my circle small. This is why you shouldn't share everything on social media. This is why you shouldn't share all your personal information with all of your friends. Like, even when it comes to my relationship, I don't talk about the intimate parts of like, if my boyfriend and I are in a disagreement, which doesn't happen very often, or we've never even like gotten in like a real fight before. No one's going to know that. I'm not going to call it my mom. I'm not going to call it my dad. Like it stays right here between he and I. There's a lot of things like with friend groups of like, something happened with this friend and this friend. So you have to tell the rest of the 3 friends about everything that happened. Now there's sides and stuff like that. Life doesn't work like that.
No.
You have to keep your circle small. You have to make sure the people in it are unproblematic, are going to treat you the way that you want to be treated. That's it. Like I need to be more guarded on who I let in and why. Thinking I can change people and I can't. Like that's another thing I just had to like, I had to swallow this pill, especially with men in LA, of I can fix you.
Oh my gosh, don't I know that? Yeah.
But that's who we are. Like
Right.
we are problem solvers,
Yeah.
and God made us that way. There's a lot of people who are paralyzed by a problem, and you and I will go, how can we fix it?
Yeah.
What can I do? What is the next best step? And that's not necessarily what we always need to do. Sometimes we just need to disengage.
Yeah.
And that's so hard. That is so hard for my personality type, but it's been good. I've become a lot more introverted. So
yeah, I love all of that.
Yeah.
And it really is like, and that's kind of like the heart behind this question. It's like the things that we sometimes feel are a weakness or like causing some kind of pain, like, oh, I'm trying to fix everyone all the time. Why am I doing that? I'm letting people in too much. Why am I doing that? There's actually like, that's the flip side of actually a gift and a strength. And I think like all of our imperfections are actually something that we can use for good. It's like, oh no, I am an empathetic person and I do like to invest into people and to fix them, but I can do that in a place that still protects me and is healthy. And so I love that you have recognize that and you've gone on this journey of just embracing that, and you're so wise and amazing, and I just love you so much, and I'm really, really glad and grateful that you took the time to be on here today and to share your heart. And how can people connect with you and follow you? I know you've been working on some amazing music. Like, how can they follow along and hear that?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. You are an absolutely incredible individual, and God is moving in your life, even in the way that you just speak and you carry yourself. He shines all over you and through you.
Wow, thank you.
And you can just tell that you're anointed. That's it. At the end of the day, you've got it all going on.
You're gonna make me cry.
No, I'm serious. And I just really appreciate you, and I'm really proud of who you are and whose you are. And I just love you. When it comes to music and whatnot, you can follow me on Instagram at Madi Grace Perry, and on TikTok for my shenanigans, you can follow me at Bible Belt Barbie.
Best username ever.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm you know what, you don't even know, I was about to start a hunting Instagram of like me doing like my Southern bull crap.
Oh my gosh.
Just, like posting like hunting and fishing and you know, like really getting into it.
Do it. So, I fully support it. Yeah.
I still have the Instagram handle. Maybe I'll still use it. But yeah, Madi Grace Perry. So that's me.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, anyone that's listening, she posts the most empowering content. And I feel like even what we were talking about with body image, just seeing how you speak about that and just present yourself so gracefully, I highly recommend following along. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I know that there's so much good content out there, so I really appreciate you taking the time to listen and to join in, and we'll see you next week.